Okay. All right. All right. Looks like I am live across the board. Fantastic. All right. Well, hello everybody, and good day to you. It's Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this episode or this live show. Um, and We're going to be doing of course, we're going to be doing some geopolitical coverage. Um, yes, my name, of course, if you haven't met me yet or you're watching Banner Backbone, my name is Shane Urich. I'm an independent geopolitical analyst. Um, whether I'm working for the Firebrand project, which is my personal account, as well as I now work closely with Banner and Backbone, and I'm working and helping over at Center America as well. So the overall commitment does absolutely remain to be giving you guys the absolute best open source verifiable reporting on geopolitics, so you guys get the bigger picture, because of course you deserve to be as informed as the experts, and all that information is out there for you guys to have and get access to. So I'm going to continue to kind of bring you guys this information as a situation develops. I am quite tired today. I was up pretty late last night, just kind of tracking everything that's going on. Um, we're seeing, yeah, I've been putting out updates pretty much twice a day, every hour, twice a day. I'm not going to put out an evening update today. I think I'm going to wait until the morning tomorrow, because I just don't think I've we've got a couple things. You're going to see some other analysis if you're following over at Center America, the work that I'm doing with them as well. So, but I don't know if I'm going to do an evening update. I'm tired, and I think I think I'm just not gonna do that. Um, I was telling Sherrod this morning, I'm just tired of war. It's pretty it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, it's just these guys, these people in power, all of these politicians and uh all these politicians and all of these, you know, autocrats, and it's just they just have no consideration for the value of human life. Um, it kind of looks like the U.S. is going to end up giving them the power they need in Iran to to basically give them wartime powers. So, Iran is making a lot of claims, and I mean, we'll talk very briefly of this, but of course, our spotlight today is on the EU and North America, as well as we're going to talk a little about India and this concept of the middle powers, because it's a really important one, especially when we're looking at everything that's going on right now, and how things are going to be changing, around and throughout the wider world, and just how everything is so deeply interconnected. It's it's really hard sometimes to put into words just how much, one thing will affect the other. But there's a reason that the entire world has been was like, don't do it. Uh, Now, my analysis I put out this morning, it really just seems like things are going to get drawn out. Um, and tomorrow when I look at all of this stuff, I'll give you guys another analysis. It just seems to me that I this morning I went through, and I was going through all the open source stuff. I verified all of the strikes that I could geolocate and cross reference, and the United States has lost at least, nearly $2 billion in radar systems in the last 5 days. So, they've lost at least 4 fighter jets. They have seen the the U.S. seat of power in the Gulf hit, um, particularly their internet and radar, basically command and control communications node. There was effectively destroyed. I mean, you can say what you want. I do think that absolutely there's some level of degradation. There is some part of this situation where they are losing launchers to attrition, but the Israeli claim, the American claim that they've, taken up 50% of their launchers in the first several days. I just don't think that's true. In fact, I find the statements coming out of CENTCOM and the in the Israel to be probably the least accurate as well. Okay, so hold on. Um, so we're seeing different conflicting statements here. One of the things that's going on, this is why it's really important that we do open source information. One of the things that's going on in general is there's claims right now. Fox has reported that there was a Kurdish invasion that has been launched into Iran. So, now I'm also seeing conflicting reports on whether or not those Kurdish forces did and are invading. So, you know, again, I have to highlight that both of these sides are getting hurt more than they want anyone to know. The United States and Israel are getting hurt so much worse than they, want everyone to know. Like these bases in Kuwait where the U.S. was hit, where they got hammered. Kuwait is reporting dozens of casualties to their soldiers and their bases, but the U.S. still is maintaining that it's less than 10 who were killed. It just doesn't seem plausible. And unfortunately, Western media in general still subscribes to the idea of U.S. total supremacy. There's really two conflicting theories. I'll summarize this really quick, and then we're going to get into the rest of the report. But going forward, there's two tracks that I'm considering. One is that Iran has already anticipated that everything above the ground was going to get bombed. And I think that is extremely realistic. It also matches and is in continuity with the movements and actions of Iran prior to the strikes. They had 5 weeks, to do that, and they did. They moved their launchers around. They dispersed them all over, and a lot of those things go underground. And yes, the U.S. and Israel can claim that they hit these sites, but like they're hitting like the door, like the outside of these bunkers. I mean, these are deep tunnels, hundreds of feet underground. If they hit, the door or whatever, the garage where they drive the missile, launching system out, that might stop them from doing that, but they just have to move it elsewhere. And all these systems have to be connected. I mean, there's just no way that they haven't built. I mean, from a archaeological perspective, if somehow humans make it, they're 10,000 years, I think one of the great wonders of the world will be the Iranian tunnel system, if we even make it that far. I mean, I can't imagine that thing's not crazy. I don't think it's realistic to assume that Iran would leave itself so vulnerable, especially considering that they've had a contingency for this for a long time. There's just a Western narrative that like people with brown skin are savages and are just technologically and all their countries and systems are inferior, and it just doesn't work like that. And I think that pollutes and poisons the mind of a lot of media in general. There is just a significant pro-US bias. I'm not biased, but like from where I'm sitting, the Iranian strikes on United States are strategically a victory. They're weakening the United States anti-air envelope capacity and their ability to intercept missiles. So even if they're launching at a lesser rate than they were, which it is notable, they're launching waves in the first days. They were launching waves of somewhere, in the 120 at one point. And now these are, intermittent barrages every 3 to 4 hours. It's kind of intermittent, but, these are 9 to 30 missiles and drones, right? So the, the assertion that the lower rate of attacks is because of launcher attrition and successful strikes is pretty much only hedged on Israeli claims that are backed by the United States. And they have every incentive to tell the rest of the world that they're winning. It doesn't mean that they're winning. It also doesn't mean that everything Iran is saying is true either. But Iran's still launching missiles, and beyond that, Iran is taking out valuable targets. Iran is taking out the U.S. capacity to and taking out U.S. C2 capacity, right? Command and control, and by taking out these $2 billion worth of radar systems and just communications, that does impact the United States' ability to conduct operations in the Middle East. They're talking about, and they probably already have initiated a transfer of more anti-air systems from the Korean Peninsula to the Middle East. This is just, so there's that side, right? Where basically my idea and the way I see it is, yes, it's probably likely they could have taken out launchers. I don't believe a 50 launcher. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry. Hold on. Let's see here. Unofficial reporting coming in right now that Bahrain is getting hit again. There's a lot of just narrative control. This is not the war that, there's no transparency. Like I'm not sleeping, Sherrod's not sleeping. We're not sleeping because like everyone else is just like parroting the wrong stuff. And it's like a huge problem because the United States is trying to justify a war domestically. And people in the country are not getting the right information. And Caroline Leavitt is lying. They don't have anything stored away. They cannot conduct an operation in the Middle East for an extended duration of time. And, that's my assessment. If they've got a bunch of stuff hidden away they didn't tell anybody, well, that's great. I'm so glad that they're going to turn around and waste that stuff that they hid on Iran instead of, using it to deter, threats like China. It's pretty ridiculous. Also the United States launched military operations in Ecuador. They did that last night too. The justification, of course, the justification, not of course, was so that the United States is cooperating with Ecuador to combat narco-terrorism because, to be fair, let's see here. Yep. So the Senate has failed to pass the wartime resolution restricting Trump's power to launch strikes in Iran. Let me verify that really quick. And then I don't know. I mean, if this is true, I'm gonna make the assertion that the American Constitution is effectively the Constitution is no longer working. I don't know. Like one side is okay, the U.S. and Israel. Oh my God, Israel's getting hammered. It's raining missiles. It's raining missiles from the sky in Israel. Israel's mobilized 100,000 reserve troops. They're about to go into an entire war in Lebanon. It's just, not to mention Iran, and all of this is happening right next to the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, where yesterday, if you didn't see our newsletter yesterday, that you've got all these insurgencies, you've got the war in Sudan, you've got Ethiopia and the Tigray talking about going to war. Iran has close relationships with Islamic extremist groups like Janim. like that are in the Horn of Africa in that region. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, that this is, if you're wondering what what a world war looks like, this is it, folks. There's just really that's kind of what this is, and it's really close to becoming like a pretty much a continental conflict spanning from Iran in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan all the way through the Sahel region and across North Africa. I mean, it is really quite close. So, God, I hope I don't have to cover that, but we'll see. So all that said, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk about the Strait of Hormuz and everything, and talk about Europe. We're going to talk about North America and whatnot. What's going on, Cheech? We're going to talk about Ukraine today. Good thing Cheech is here. We're going to talk about Ukraine today. We're going to talk about how things are going over there, and just kind of catch up on what's been going on while all of this has been happening in the background. So we'll make sure I get all that for you guys today. So if you are interested and you are committed to supporting independent journalism, but most importantly, open source reporting, verifiable data, receipts backed information, my commitment to you here as a independent geopolitical analyst. I'm not backed by anybody. I don't have a sponsor. I don't work for a major news corporation. I work with people I trust. I work with Senator America. I work with Banner and Backbone. I work with people that I believe have integrity, because I believe that citizens and citizen journalists deserve the same access to information that the experts get, because it's all there. And it's a choice not to share that with you. So I choose to do that and give you guys a space where you can get that information consistently. So if you haven't hit the heart button, do that. Tap the heart button, hit it really quick. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, share this live with somebody. And let's get into the news. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm freaking tired. I'm tired as hell. So, my friends, it is March 4th, 2026. I'm reporting to you from California. In what I mean is, I don't technically the United States of America, but I don't really recognize it anymore. This is pretty much a autocratic state it's pretty depressing. I don't know. It's pretty depressing, but I'm alive, I'm breathing, and I'm going to get you guys this information. So, and of course, the world is on fire. So let's talk about it. Everybody, welcome to the Firebrand Report Live, European and North American Spotlight. We'll go ahead and get into the news. So the Strait of Hormuz shutdown has turned the Indian Ocean from kind of like a background theater into the main board, where Europe's energy security and U.S. naval credibility and Iran's risk tolerance all collide. We consistently see, these geopolitical events creating and colliding to create larger shifts and larger. Sorry, I just got a notification. Looks like there's video of missiles in the sky over Bahrain. Bahrain, multiple missile strikes in Bahrain. So it looks like another strike, another series of strikes is being carried out against Bahrain right now. So we've got these three different intersections, right, in geopolitics, and all this is happening at the same time that the situation has really changed in Ukraine, and this is kind of almost like a footnote to the whole narrative that's going on, where the world has shifted its gaze to the Gulf and the Arabian Sea and the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea, all these things. Ukraine has started putting the pedal to the metal. Yeah, if you were stationed there during the Gulf War, yeah, the U.S. CENTCOM headquarters there for the Fifth Fleet, the U.S. Fifth Fleet Naval Command there was hit by 2 ballistic missiles, at least one Shahed drone, and they destroyed 2 like radars and like communications nodes there. The footage there on that particular facility is pretty substantial. That thing they declared it unsafe, and they pretty much pulled everyone who's like non-essential out of there. And I don't actually know if they still have people there or not. But yes, advances in Ukraine. Now 460 square kilometers have been liberated since January, and Russia is still just pouring missiles and drones into Ukraine's power grid. Um, India has moved from talking about a trade reset with Washington to locking in a interim framework that's around $500 billion over 5 years, while quietly building a middle powers relationship with Canada, a relationship that has been truly, which has been pretty sour for quite some time. Question regarding the number: I heard 590 U.S. soldiers hurt or killed. That number, I believe, I heard was from Iran. Iran has also claimed that it has hit a U.S. naval destroyer. It has claimed a lot of things. It also claimed it hit the USS Gerald R. Ford, but haven't seen that. So Iran's going to claim a lot of things. Like the same level of lying and rhetoric that's coming out of Iran is coming out of the United States. And I believe that the United States has found itself in effectively a peer-to-peer conflict, at least to the point where their overwhelming air superiority is not going to be enough to actually achieve that. So, in general, but I just want to highlight the stakes here. When we talk about these 3 things, it's one system, right? It's a story about how the Western order and whether it still delivers security and predictability for its allies and the middle powers. And if it doesn't, we'll see. The claims that the Kurds have entered into the conflict in Iran is conflicted. Um, yeah, I'm starting to see now a lot of outlets coming out and actually conflict that information. So I am actually, and I saw that originated from Fox as well. Fox was one of the first to publish that. So again, it's like really important when we talk about these narratives that this is contested. This is why open source information, this is why what I'm doing and Sherrod is doing and other people aren't doing is so important. So I would hold off on repeating that information. I would pay close attention to what me and Sherrod are putting out at Senator America, if you want to know what's going on there. But I would avoid sharing that information at this time. So, all that said, I want to kind of just get into all of our different regions here. We're going to do the spotlight. I'm going to cover Europe a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cover. It will start with the EU. We're going to go and talk about the US and Canada. We'll talk about Ukraine, and then we're going to talk about this US-India framework and kind of all of that as well. So, what's looked like a scare in Hormuz is become a multi-week choke on the West's second largest major energy corridor, right? The 20% number is legit. Like 20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz every day. Not to mention that at the same time, Iran has been striking liquid natural gas and oil infrastructure in U.S. host countries as well. So from starting on the 28th, when the escalation and everything started, when the U.S. and Israel launched all those strikes, this included basically the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed immediately. While it might not have been officially closed, commercial vessels really didn't have a choice. They're not going to sail through a war zone. We've got, more than 200 ships are currently stranded in and around the strait, right? They're stuck and with whatever is on them. This drove up Brent crude oil up 12% week on week. European gas benchmarks have spiked about 50%. And analysts are now warning that the real risk in liquid natural gas shock, more than oil shock. So it's actually going to be the gas and the natural gas that is more damaging to the global economy. But we're seeing the global economy, being pretty consistent. Local sources are also confirming that there is any Kurdish forces on the ground as well. So this is a false. I'm going to say with 70-80% confidence that this is a false propaganda effort by the United States to give the opinion, to give the image of a surrounded Iran. Qatar Energy actually declared that force majeure or attacks on liquid natural gas exports after Iran-related attacks have halted their liquefaction in some platforms, and expectations is that normal exports won't even resume for at least a month. I mean, so even if it stopped today, you've seen infrastructure and essential, supply chain facilities just destroyed. They're not going to be functional. So even if the war stopped today, which it won't. So if we're going to assume that this is going to go on for weeks, which is what they're saying, I don't think it's going to go on for weeks. And if it does go on for weeks, it's going to be because the United States launches a ground invasion. But again, I'm also kind of iffy about that because I just think that Iran is striking U.S. bases around the region really well. So they're really, if they're going to do that, if all these airfields aren't safe, they're not going to be able to deploy troops en masse because a ballistic missile they've proven that they can hit that base. If they were to do it, their options are basically a massive amphibious landing or risk it all, which they might do, and expose thousands of troops to potential, Iranian retaliation while they're even massing troops. Just because they can't do it, though, doesn't mean they won't try, because it seems like this is the stupidest military action I've seen since, I can even really consider, since Putin invaded Ukraine. So, and all of this is happening, right? So if that gets drawn out, you're talking about JP Morgan and Iraqi officials are now saying that Iraq and Kuwait are also could be forced to curb output by more than 3 million barrels per day within days if Hormuz remains blocked, right? Because they need to export this oil. They don't have the infrastructure to just hold all of this oil, which means they just stop producing it. If this continues to remain blocked, you're talking about 3.8 to 4.7 million barrels per day, being trapped in the Strait of Hormuz. So, the shutdown of the strait would force Iraqi and Kuwait to curb that output within days, and that's going to be very costly. This is really, I think, the first test of what we're going to talk about, this Western Indo Rim system, or WIRO. Geographically, it is the Western Indian Ocean region, Hormuz, the Gulf of Aden, Bab el Mandeb, down through Mozambique Channel. This is carrying a huge share of global oil, liquid natural gas, and container traffic for India. This is the arena where it wants to act as kind of net security provider for Europe. It is the corridor that replaced Russia's cheap pipeline and gas. So India has also been working more closely with the EU. And that is kind of where you had them make the mother of all deals, all these fantastic, very, very good terms between the EU and India. 96% of tariffs going to be pretty much removed or lowered. They're removing trade barriers. So it's a very substantial and big, tightening between those two groups. And so, that's what I would say there. Oh, somebody here on my camera is telling me, there you go. That should be better. That my flag was backwards, and it was mirroring. So thank you for pointing that out. What I see here at this point is where all this oil is going through. And Europe had to pivot away from Russian oil. So now this whole thing makes it all worse, because while this WIRO system is going on, you've got Western partner navies that are supposed to be working together. The EU and US industrial policy, basically, they're trying to build energy and defense redundancy, as well as basically to challenge the rules-based order that keeps China and Russia in terms of leverage in that area. What this really shows is that WIRO is not mature, that the systems that were in place to stop that, stop this from happening, is abundant at this point. Like, it's very clear that the world wasn't ready for this. America wasn't ready for this. And this affects more than just oil and gas, right? So this is one of those things where you're going to see it affect a ton of different industries. Brussels, right? Europe, the EU, they're struggling, they're scrambling, they're convening energy crisis meetings. European refiners and airlines, industrial users are repricing everything from jet fuel to fertilizer. All of these things that are made and exported from these, global south or from the global east, these things are all stopping, because not only can you not sail a ship through there, now you're even seeing escalation in the Red Sea, right? So the Houthis actually did strike a vessel. It was confirmed today across my channels. I was reporting that. And I'll get you the name of the vessel. And that vessel was forced to be abandoned, which then of course drives up maritime insurance. They start canceling. Companies start basically stopping their vessels. So they can't be insured. They don't want to send them out there, and it just all kind of compounds into something that is, it's like a traffic jam on the global economy. So there's reports of this potentially happening, but it's kind of iffy. So in terms of whether or not they did, I'm seeing reports conflicting, but the Houthis are taking their time, and they're getting ready for a large attack. The Houthis have the capacity to launch missile barrages, like actually of up to 1,000. Not that they would do that, but like the Houthis have as many missiles as like, not as many, but they're supplied by Iran. And the US hasn't even been able to stop Iran from bombing everybody. And the US actually lost to the Houthis in Yemen. They quit in 2025 because the Houthis, They couldn't get rid of them. They managed to kill over, I want to say, over 150 innocent civilians. And they managed to shoot down 2 of their own F-18 Hornets, but they did not manage to really do any damage to the Houthis. So if they think they're going to have it better this time around, I doubt it. So Washington right now is discovering that, carrier groups and escort plans are necessary, but not sufficient when insurers and traders are already pricing for a long war. So what do I mean? I mean that, Trump has said that he's talking about unveiling a plan in which naval escorts and shipping guarantees where they're going to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. That's an awful idea. If you want to lose a warship, you do that. You send your ships into the Strait of Hormuz, where the enemy has anti-ship missiles and likely fast attack boats. They're going to torpedo the shit out of you, or they're going to hit you with an anti-ship missile. Sorry, guys. I'm just so tired. Brent, of course, we were talking about is back up to 52-week highs. The oil and gas market is affecting the United States just as much as it is affecting everyone else, despite whether or not the United States are, whether the United States are, going to own that or not. You're seeing Asia and Europe as the regions that are most exposed to prolonged disruption. I would note that China in particular has Saudi and Aramco are rerouting exports via the Red Sea. So I can check that as well while we're looking at this. As far as shipping, oil and gas majors, their plus trading houses, everyone is suspending shipments via Hormuz. By day 5, the standoff, many tankers are still stranded, and refiners. And I am going to be able to confirm Saudi Aramco is now choosing to reroute its exports via the Red Sea to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Multiple industry and wires are saying that Aramco has begun redirecting crude from its Gulf terminals through the East-West pipeline to the Red City port of Yanbu. So, they are they're basically going to start having, you're already seeing them have to move, change. Again, we haven't really seen the Houthis do anything yet. Like, the Houthis have sunk multiple ships, right? Like they've sunk one ship. They've done this to a couple. They have anti-ship ballistic missiles, but they haven't done anything yet beyond basically say that they're going to do it, unless this new report that's coming in and out is accurate about them using missiles to strike a Maltese ship, I believe is what the flag was. It was a Maltese ship. So that they're claiming they struck. Again, there's going to be a lot of your conflicting, arguments here. So basically, even with this great example of Saudi Arabia rerouting through the Red Sea, this also makes those, you close the Strait of Hormuz. I'm just going to say this. If I'm Iran, I am going to close the Strait of Hormuz. I know that the Gulf states are going to have to change their oil exports. They're going to have to adjust. And then you're going to start to see increased traffic through the Red Sea. And so I can imagine that having the Houthis there with all of these ballistic missiles to hit the ships would be pretty advantageous. So all I'm saying is little weird. So as far as, those aspects of the situation, you're seeing just everything getting moved around. It's creating chaos, uncertainty in a global market. And this is like global disruption on like the biggest scale I think we've seen in modern history. So At the same time, Canada is tightening its own leverage over alliance logistics. Ottawa's updated approach to military and high-risk overflights, scrutinizing and in some cases constraining certain routes and cargoes, is not about this week's crisis, but it's actually about the next decade. So Canada has changed their rules in terms of monitoring their airspace to basically raise prices and limitations on US flights in and over Canada. So yes, to reach a lot of places in the world, you have to fly over the Arctic Circle. Well, now those airlines actually, they're going to have to pay larger fees where they were not being charged that in the past. So this is going to be a major disruption financially in the U.S. Air logistics as well as passenger flights, all those things. Those costs are just going to be absorbed and passed on to the consumer. So you're just going to see basically traveling on American Airlines, that's going to get more expensive. That's basically what that means. And it also means that it's going to make the U.S. particularly is going to make things harder for them, which Canada has done a great job basically resisting coercion by the United States Trump regime. At this point, I think I'm just going to say that every time, because after Congress has failed to limit the war powers of Donald Trump and his billionaire oligarch techno-fascist backers, at that point, I would say they have achieved regime status. There is no checks or balances. There's nothing to be done until Americans decide they're over it. And I hope I get a report on that. But I think I have to say from my perspective that the Constitution is not working because this is if there's one decision a people's should have as a country, it's whether or not they want to send their youth to die in a war. And that power should be maintained by Congress, the legislator, the most direct representation of the people. It's not a unilateral decision that should be made by a bunch of narcissistic pedophiles who have captured the government on the behalf of Israel and Russia to the detriment of the entire country. So, explain to me how the America that I was taught in school that exists with a series of checks and balances, those checks and balances in particular, being the limitation of things like the president being able to declare war. And I just don't see it. I don't see it anymore. I don't see anything that I was taught. And I think that Americans are lying to themselves if they think that there's any kind of remaining government system that is so it's pretty dark, but hopefully, I say in that sense it's always the extremes that are going to drive the ability for more people and more folks to realize that maybe this is wrong, maybe we should stop this. So hopefully the stressors here, hopefully, I guess, this war and the irrefutable evidence that we're going to see, as well as the economic pain and the credibility inflicted upon the United States, it will definitely, go that way as well. And I just think that's going to go. I mean, pedophiles. Yes. Oh, there's a YouTube comment here. It says, oh, that's really nice. I don't usually look at these YouTube comments. I'm going to put it up on the screen so you guys can see exactly what the YouTube bots are, because YouTube's a little different. YouTube is pretty toxic. There's a lot of bots on there. I don't know if all of these guys are bots or not. I think a lot of them are, but some of them I think are just like brain rotted to hell. Because it's like, oh, what? They're pedophiles? Shut up. I mean, have you seen the Epstein files? Have you seen the Epstein files? They're out there. I mean, he's got his names in there more than anyone else. I don't know what you mean, unless you're blind. But then again, I feel like a blind person can use their ears. So you're clearly just a Nazi, and I just wanted to put you up there, buddy. So we're gonna continue here. I'm just I'm gonna power through this. Ukraine, this is good. This is good. I need this. We all need this. Let's talk about Ukraine, because Russia's getting whooped. It's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see. The latest reports on the Ukrainian counteroffensive that was launched following basically this all started in February, when Starlink was cut off, and Russian forces lost their ability to act on the ground efficiently using their drones and coordinate their communications. It turns out that Russia was leaning extremely hard on the on Starlink to communicate. So when this was cut off, Ukraine launched a counteroffensive in conjunction with this to reclaim a lot of territory. And this is substantial. I mean, this is very effective. Ukraine, in the last several months, I want to say it was like late last year, there was a lot of complaints within the Ukrainian armed forces about leadership and, how they were handling the situation, troops and just logistics. There was a lot of rot and confusion in the Ukrainian military structure, kind of those relics of the old Soviet doctrine. One of the comments here from Cheech, who is one of the most Ukraine informed individuals I know, say that Russians are adding relay antennas and using camo to make antennas look like trees. Yes, they are definitively losing. And we're seeing actually a crazy counterattack. I mean, these are some nice looking counterattacks. And it's because I think in part that these Ukrainian commanders, they've taken these people who have been fighting this war, and they're starting to replace this old guard, these people who, think and still act under the Soviet doctrine. And they're replacing them with flexible on the ground commanders who understand drone warfare, who have been fighting. And it's changing the dynamic of the battlefield, because you have to think too, from a certain perspective, Russia's rate of attrition is crazy. The casualties been well over 1 million. They might hit 2. I'm not going to say no, because they keep coming, and now they're losing ground. And I mean, they're really losing ground. So on multiple fronts, Ukraine is counterattacking. Ukrainian forces are conducting counterattacks in the Orkiv, the Hulayapolya, the Oleksandrivka belts, as well, and near Pokrovsk, liberating dozens of localities, and by government count, at least 460 square kilometers. This is territory that Russia paid for, every foot, with dozens, hundreds of bodies in some places. In some settlements, it's thousands. Even if they're slowly losing territory in other places, the fact that they've been successfully countering these counterattacks is like, Russia has to take that back. And these are supposed to be the claims. Russia is maintaining that it's winning. And this is a good example of why we should be extremely skeptical of the United States and what Israel is saying, because Russia is getting whooped so hard. And they can't even, and they can't even, they won't admit that it's happening. So when big countries are fighting a country that the assumption is that that country is lesser and will lose, that country will lie about what's happening. why would you not expect other countries to do the same thing? If being a liar is in your best interest as a politically motivated or a power hungry nation or an imperialist country, whatever, you're just going to continue to not be a truther. They won't lie, they just won't truth. So, eventually it will come out though. And that's the biggest thing is, oh my. Now Iran is hitting, it looks like now Iran is hitting the Kurdish resistant groups. So they're hitting the Kurds that are supposed to be invading them, allegedly. So, this footage looks pretty legit, but you never know with AI. But I'm super happy to hear this news coming out of Ukraine. And I think that Russia is on its last legs. I think that Russia has been collapsing, but maybe we see it sooner. Maybe we see it this year. I'm not going to rule it out, especially if Ukraine is able to just undo all of this. Like the Russian military bloggers, they're freaking out. They're freaking out. And they're talking about it because they have VPNs. Like they're freaking out right now. They're like, what is going on? That's a good question. So as we kind of continue along the front here in the Novopavlivka direction, the Institute for the Study of War has geolocated recent Ukrainian advances southwest of Novomy Kulaivka and along the Novopavlivka axis, indicating that Kyiv is still finding tactical opportunities despite Russian pressure, right? So even though they're under pressure, even though Russia is pushing hard on them, they still maintain the ability to counterattack and effectively. And for Russia to win, this just can't happen. And generally into early March on a national level, Russia is continuing large-scale drone and missile barrages against infrastructure. Some are involving hundreds of projectiles in a single night, causing the rolling blackouts and stressing Ukraine's grid as winter ends. And winter is coming to an end in Ukraine. So, the advantage of basically trying to freeze Ukraine to death goes away. And now Russia has a whole nother year until they can put these questions, basically put these tactics back to work. Doesn't look like they are doing particularly well in that case, right? Like that's not that was their angle. That was what they were going to do. They were going to do this over the weekend, and now they're not. You have so much complexity in terms of Russian, resupply and access to parts. The company Ubiquity, something that Cheech has looked into, something that I've looked into with him a little bit. There's an entire rich people shadow economy, billionaire shadow economy, and billionaire supply lines. And United States has been supplying Russia at least for some time now, particularly through this company Ubiquity. But if Ukraine is winning with all of this help, it doesn't matter, right? So that's like the takeaway here is like Ukraine is one of those black swans of the 2026 global order. We just don't know exactly how they were supposed to lose, and they're not going to. I have maintained, and I still believe that Ukraine will outlast Russia. Russia has churned through its entire standing military from 2022 already. They've already churned through the whole thing. They've got everybody's fucking new. And unless Putin's been holding them back, everybody's new. Everyone's dead or wounded. They're all dead or wounded. I mean, there's not like they don't have troops that are experienced. They don't have new tanks. They don't have missile, like their missile stockpiles. I'm presuming they also have a probably ability to make missiles, but not at the same scale. Like none of these countries, I think what we're learning in Iran is that missile warfare favors the aggressor heavily, to the point where missiles in general are like it's more expensive to intercept the missile, which means that if intercepting the missile is more expensive than making the missile, the economically defending against missiles is not fiscally possible in a long protracted war, which we're seeing very clearly in the Middle East, as now even the Gulf states are starting to request resupply of interceptors from the United States, which the United States is saying, nope. So in that case too, it's like, well, the same must apply here, unless the next big advancement in warfare for missiles will be economic interceptors. What does that look like? Israel has tried some things, but it's not saving them. So they're still getting smoked big time. So what the Ukraine's counterattacks show, though, is that where it can concentrate munitions, where it can get support, where it can get weaponry, it can still take back ground, effectively counterattacking against Russian forces. Now, I don't think Ukraine could have done this a year and a half ago, because their military leadership was really struggling. They were making way too many mistakes. Syrskyi was doing some really stupid stuff around Pokrovsk. But ultimately, guys, war always favors the defender, and drone warfare overwhelmingly favors the defender. Defense has always been preferable, right? Like if you can dig in and have a strong position and defend from there, that's great. That's what you would expect. But at the same time, Jesus Christ. Again, I haven't confirmed this. I'm just telling you what immediate reporting is, that I'm hearing potentially that there is now explosions again in Abu Dhabi as well. So, we'll see what happens from that. I did put together a list, a analysis of compiled all of the U.S. strikes and strikes that I have confirmed already. And that's going to be out with Senator America today. So keep an eye out for that. But of course, there's more strikes every day. I mean, there's more strikes every minute. It's like impossible to keep up with. That's why I'm exhausted. It's like if they really had this under control, I would be able to sleep. So that's like the greatest example. It's like I'm trying to talk to you guys about Ukraine, but like even now, like I'm getting notifications constantly. So ultimately, though, what Ukraine is proving is applicable around the world, that using a defense-centric strategy, where you are not necessarily in a planted position. And if you want to make an assumption, right, that, Ukraine's not using a lot of ballistic missiles, they're using drones, and it's still working pretty well for them. The same would apply even if they took out, where we see Ukrainian military has broken through Zaporizhia. Let me see if I can get more information on this. I'm being fed this right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm not doing another update on this today because I just am like, I'm just over it. Okay, so the breakthrough is real, as reported. So it appears Ukraine's air assault forces state that their 132nd Separate Reconnaissance Battalion broke through Russian defensive lines on the Oleksandrivka axis, which sits at the junction between Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Dnipropetrovsk regions. According to the General Staff communiques, the operation destroyed Russian firing positions, manpower, and ammunition depots, disrupted Russian offensive plans, and opened a bridgehead for further tactical advances. Let's go ahead. I would like to go here. I want to see if we get a map of where this is going on. Let's see if I can show you guys. Also, find that here. So basically, though, I'll say that this in general, I'm not going to. Front section became the most active. Yeah. So it's the Alexandrovsk. I don't know. I don't know what region that is in Cheech. Is that Donetsk? Is that, Dnipro? Is it Zaporizhia? I don't know exactly where. So the last thing I'll talk to you guys kind of about today. I know we've wandered around, but I do think it's important to like use all of this context um, to do all these things. So I just, yeah, okay. So check that out for me. Or if you can find a map in the chat, or like a good war map, like from the Institute for the Study of War, or if you can find it in these links here, Cheech, there's a link in the chat. If you can tell me which map it is on there, I'll pull it up and talk about it really quick. The interesting thing about India basically froze its framework deals with the United States on trade after the Supreme Court ruled that it was that its tariffs themselves. What the hell? Some weird. Sorry, my phone opened in my pocket. Oh my god, Grok! It was Grok. Grok opened in my pocket. He's trying to listen. So after this, U.S. Indian officials, they freeze this, and then recently, in the last 2 days, they did confirm that some tentative framework has been put into place again, where India is going to commits to purchasing roughly $500 billion of U.S. goods over 5 years, including petroleum, defense equipment, electronics, aircraft, pharmaceuticals, telecoms, and cooking coal. And coking coal. Unless I misspelled that. Let me see. Coking coal, unless that is a fire, just coal fired for, okay, it's for industry. So, yeah, I do need to delete the app. So basically, this joint statement came out. India says we're going to swiftly implement this. If you hold this up against exactly the same deal with the United States, the mother of all deals, this deal that the U.S. made, it's very non-binding. There's a lot of wiggle room. There is not really specific measurable goals, and India is doing a really good job of this, basically playing all the sides. It's worth noting that on the 27th, the eve of the beginning of this insane war, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who is my favorite man on the global stage. However, I do think that Ursula von der Leyen is pretty badass, and she's doing pretty good as well. Those are two big heroes right there, pro-democracy peeps. When he's visiting India, he's trying to essentially convince India to be part of his middle powers framework, and they are basically reworking their relationship that's been pretty sour for a while. And they did agree with a target of a comprehensive deal by November, and that includes a $2.8 billion uranium package in cooperation on energy, AI, quantum, and education. Indian and Canadian officials frame this explicitly as a middle powers agenda, right? So Carney is really committed to building the middle powers. I think it's super important to do that. Okay, Luhansk Oblast, Ukraine. Playing between devices. I know, exactly. He's playing. He's Luhansk. Okay. Of course, now my caps lock is on. So we look at Luhansk over here, or this is just like the wrong page entirely here. This is just like one. So if we go to Luhansk Oblast, oh yeah. Okay. It looks like this is where we're talking about Lugansk Oblast, Alexandrisk. See if it's on here. I don't see it, but this would be the region that we're talking about here. And you can see you can absolutely see in this picture, though, the effectiveness of the Ukrainian counterattack. This is from March 2nd. But this is a huge counteroffensive in Kharkiv, pushing them back. Around Kupiansk was where one of the most successful operations. This is actually one of the operations that I consider as turning the tide and that momentum in late 2025. When Kupiansk was, the Russians in Kupiansk were decisively defeated. And after Putin made claims that, they are, it's Luhansk. Wait, this is Kharkiv. Where's Luhansk? I don't know if it'll tell me here, but Liman. So anyway, we'll look at that, but you can just see as you go through here, all these counterattacks, right? This is great for Ukraine. I love seeing this blue, right? And even Konstantinivka, right? The Russians, they're trying to go around and encircle Konstantinivka because, of course, you have the fortress belt here, which they're not doing too well. They're not going to be able to take those territories. So the point I really want to talk about when I'm talking about India as well is that India is basically just sitting in a position where they're able to play every side and benefit from every side. But when you hold up the deals that the United States has made with India against the types of relationships and frameworks being held with, European countries and other partners, the United States deal is very loose. And it is intentionally kind of vague in a certain sense for that reason. It doesn't necessarily. Let's see. I have this map here as well. Let's find it on the thing here. So basically, it looks like this is over by Bakhmut, Kramatorsk here. Okay, so this is into Luhansk. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so here's Luhansk over here. So I can show you guys this place on the map really quick before I go. So share this here. You can see what this area that he's talking about. Where why is it not showing here? Okay, there we go. I'll show you guys kind of what this looks like, and you should be able to see this Luhansk area. And if you actually look like there as well, there's this city here, Alentotrivsk, and I'm not. Do they control Luhansk do they control that at the moment? Because that would be pretty crazy, actually, if that's the case. Because that would be a pretty significant development, I would say. So we got Kupiansk and Luhansk over here. I mean, they're taking a lot of ground, and so it's a good thing net, because also a weakened Russia, it weakens the U.S. Associated axis of evil, So because we know that at least the Kremlin has so much dirt on Donald Trump. They know about the Epstein files. They probably had something on him because he really does whatever they ask. And it's kind of weird. It's a little weird. I just feel like it's kind of sus a lot of the time. So we'll see here. What's going on, but that's kind of what I have for you guys today. I'll get this newsletter up as well. You will be able to go and see all these things I'm talking about. And read that as well, guys. If you want to support me in this work, if you want to support me providing you guys with verifiable open source, cited and cross-checked news that you guys deserve, then subscribe here. Scan that QR code right here. If you see that QR code and you scan that, it'll take you to my link tree. And once you go to the link tree, you can go there. You can make donations. You can subscribe. Paid subscribers, $6 a month. If you can do that, it really helps me out. That way, you guys are going to be able to get not only that, but my Iran updates. I put one out this morning. Like I said, I'm not going to put one out this evening, but you guys, I will get you guys 2 more tomorrow. So you guys just get access to this open source information, and I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to do it for you guys. So please, support me any way you can, because this is something that I think is important, and I want to make sure that I can keep doing it with you guys as well. So thank you guys for supporting. Those of you who have, make sure you hit that heart button. Please do that. If you're watching this video, like it, restack it, and leave a comment, because that's a great way to help boost this in the algorithm. But most importantly, of course, I'm doing this information for you guys. I want to bring you guys this information because this is a time when citizen engagement in real news, and more importantly, this age of citizen journalism and citizen exploration of these information and seeking answers from these questions. That is really important, and I am going to continue to do my best to be a place where you guys can come and get information that you can trust, so you can go and talk about these things and actually really have educated and guided conversations on what's happening throughout the world, because this is a show for all people, because part of self-determination, part of democracy, and the right of every person on this planet to be treated like a human being, to have fundamental rights, to not be afraid or to be persecuted by or for arbitrary things like the color of their skin, or what they choose to call themselves, or the country where they were born, such things that they have no control over whatsoever. It is because democracy and freedom of determination that we as societies can stop that kind of behavior. Democracy is the best way forward that we have to protect each other and to protect the integrity of our society. And the baseline of democracy is information and awareness. And independent media, independent journalists are not doing that. Half these guys that I used to watch, I can't even watch anymore, because a parrot would tell me more if you put it in front of Fox News. It sucks to say, and it sucks, when we're looking at things getting worse and worse and worse, and all of these independent journalists are getting more and more clickbaity, trying to lock in their income. So who knows? But I'm not going to change. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to go and take a freaking nap. So please, I hope while I'm asleep, you guys subscribe. I hope you become a paid subscriber while I'm asleep. And when you see me tomorrow, I will be awake, much more awake, because I'm going to sleep. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting me, and thank you for caring about the truth. Thank you for wanting the truth and all of those things. Because if people don't want the truth, then it's already lost. So knowing that you guys are here, getting the truth, caring about the truth, wanting to spread the truth, and supporting independent, verifiable, open source, independent journalism, you're doing the right thing. So thank you all so very much for joining me today. You will see a newsletter come out. Make sure if you see that in your inbox, you go ahead and like that and restack it as well. And until tomorrow, I will say goodbye to you, my friends. So remember, burn bright, resist, and I will talk to you all later. Bye, everybody.